Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the NFS Highlights Show, as brought to you, of course, by Into Futsal with your host, me, Isaac Barrington, and Quentin Casey, who joins alongside today as well to take you through all of the action from the weekend's latest round of fixtures, all the goals and highlights, the moments that mattered, and of course, the exclusive interviews with some players and coaches from the games and the Team of the Week section to bring to you at the end of the show as well. So, Quentin, how did you see the weekend's games from your point of view? It was an interesting weekend of action.
Yeah, really interesting weekend. I think the result that we all kind of wanted to see come in for a neutral point of view came in with Maidenhead beating Bloomsbury. Obviously, we'll get to hear a bit more of what actually happened in the game, but I think that game there being that meant that Loughborough having got the expected result, having beaten York, means that it goes down to the final day, and with kind of relegation not going down to the final day, the title not going down to the final day, it's really good that we've got at least one kind of selling point next week, which is obviously can Maidenhead beat Bolton. Makes a massive game as well because Bolton, with the results of the weekend drawing with Wessex, they're going to really want to get back on the horse before the playoffs. Harbury, having got that good result at Derby, have obviously gone on and put a really good performance in as well. So we'll go through it all, as you know, but yeah, really, really good weekend.
Yeah, great weekend. Great excitement across the course of all four games. Let's get straight into it then. Maidenhead are up first as they host Bloomsbury. So joining us for this first game then, we're delighted to welcome Maidenhead United's Harry Tozer. Harry, thanks for joining us. The first thing I wanted to ask you really was just where this victory ranks in terms of the performances and results that you've had since you joined Maidenhead and the results that Maidenhead have had this season. Of course, there's been a lot of good performances, a lot of ones I'm sure to look back on, but beating the reigning champions, it must be right up there.
Yeah, cheers for having me, guys. Yeah, it's definitely up there with our games. We've had some good games this season. Thinking back, playing Bloomsbury in the cup, beating them, and drawing with Manchester, that was a good game. But we've had some tricky games as well where we've kind of come away a bit disappointed. But this is definitely up there. Yeah, to be able to go and beat them 3-2 in a really important game for us, it definitely ranks up there. In probably all of our like futsal careers, if you can say that. So yeah, really good game to win.
Yeah, moving on to the game itself then, you obviously went two goals up, but then were pegged back just before half time. Must have been such a pleasing thing to get 2 goals ahead, but then was that a setback before the break?
I think we're really pleased to get the first goal, just to sort of settle the nerves a little bit, and then to push on and get the second goal to go 2-0 up. That was really important for us, more like for confidence, I think. Sort of like, we can match their level and go 2-0 up. I think them scoring like before half time, I don't know, when you're playing teams like Bloomsbury and they've got the quality that they have, it's really like trying to limit their opportunities that they get. And you're not going to be able to limit all of the opportunities they do get. So they managed to take one. I don't think it didn't kill the mood too much. I think we kind of expected them to score, to be honest. You're not going to, I don't feel like you're going to play Bloomsbury and they're not going to score against you. But what it was important was that we didn't concede 2 before half time, because then I feel like they would have really got a lot of momentum from that. We might have started to feel the pressure a bit more, whereas we could, concede that goal, still be 2-1 up at half time, and kind of reassess things there.
What was the message at half time? Obviously, you'd had a good half. It's a good scoreline to go in at half time. The goal just before kind of does change, I imagine, what Richie's got to say. But yeah, what did he have to say at half time?
It was kind of focusing on what we'd done well. Before the game, the message was that like this is it. This is our season on this game, to be honest. And that at half time, we put ourselves in a really good position. And just to focus on the things that we've done well, tweaking a few things tactically maybe that we've spotted. But again, as I said, just trying to focus on limiting the opportunities they've got and being clinical when we got the opportunities. That was kind of the message. There wasn't too much detail. It was kind of just keep plugging away, doing the same sort of thing, and with a bit of luck, we'll get the result that we need.
Yeah, and then into the second half, obviously, with the result last week was like not ideal for you. And when Bloomsbury score kind of quite early on in the second half, do you kind of think, oh, here we go again, or is it kind of that moment where you go, we've got maybe 18 minutes now to effectively save your season without being too dramatic?
Yeah, that's how it felt. Kind of, we have 18 minutes to sort of save the season. It's like, I think that's exaggerating a bit, because if we had lost the game, ultimately the season still would have been a success. I think getting top 4 would be the cherry on the cake, cherry on the icing, whatever it is. But I think, yeah, going 2-2, it's like, okay, are they really going to push on here? And it's about not panicking and still trying to play the same way. It's always a physical game when we play against Bloomsbury. We felt like if we could match them physically, we would have a chance. So it was about like standing up and being strong, and not letting their experience and quality sort of show through. So I don't think we were panicking. Obviously, last week was really disappointing for us. I think, listening to Jamie last week, like their season was riding on that game and they had to win. Whereas I feel like maybe we went into that game a little bit. We knew that if we didn't win, we could still do something about it. And maybe that affected us a bit negatively last week. Whereas this week it was, this is to save the season. Yeah.
And you mentioned the physicality in the games between you and Bloomsbury. Both teams going onto 5 fouls relatively early for a game of kind of this level. Does that kind of impact the way that you can approach the rest of the game, knowing that you have got to go and score a goal, but you also have got to think you've really got to consider that going into the final stages.
Yeah, I think so. I think we scored with about 5 minutes to go, so it was kind of perfect time that we weren't really chasing it. And when they went fly keeper, there's less chance of you actually making a foul. So it probably worked out all right for us because you're kind of just defending solidly in a block and there's not that much physical contact as opposed to if it being end to end. It's definitely something that we were all aware of. And it was said, on the bench, like, we can't make a foul here. We can't, let a silly foul give them the game or any opportunity back into it. So it's just about, using the experience and not making any rash tackles. But it was definitely something we were aware of and trying not to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And we know Bloomsbury, the quality they've got, you've mentioned it there, they can be dangerous at any moment. It must have been a really nervy final few stages in the game, and that relief must have been incredible afterwards.
Yeah, it was great. I think the last play, literally with 8 seconds to go, they have the ball. Connor Miller is playing as fly goalkeeper, and he has the ball in his own goal, and they're setting the ball up to get a shot off, and it goes to the back post with literally like 0.5 seconds to go, and Laz makes this like amazing save, and everyone on the bench is just like, head in their hands, like, I don't want to watch this. This is horrible. But he managed to make the save, and amazing from him, and it was like a great feeling. And the thing is, it's only half of what we've kind of got to do. We have to go and beat Bolton, so it's not the end of the story. But yeah, to be able to go and beat them, it was a big relief, to be honest. Yeah.
And then just finally on to that game next week. Obviously, it's really only the only game with anything riding on it. You've put yourself in this position now where you can go and grab it, and Bolton have kind of got nothing to play for apart from their preparation for the playoffs. How big of a game is that kind of for you guys and the club as a whole?
Yeah, we're just trying to keep it entertaining for everyone watching, keeping it going to the last game of the season. But it's a massive game now. Like, I think the expectation or the challenge at the start of the season was to stay in the division realistically, but then that changes as we're picking up points, playing well, winning games. And yeah, it'd be great if we could. We're not getting too far ahead of ourselves. Like, we've played Bolton once this season, and I think we lost 5-2 or something. So like, it's going to be a really tough game, but we're definitely going to be prepared for it. And we're just going to like do our best. And yeah, we put ourselves in this position, so it is credit to us. But there's going to be some defining moments on Sunday that will define the season. Yeah.
Harry, thanks a lot for your time. Congratulations on beating Bloomsbury, and good luck for the big game against Bolton. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Well, Quentin, a really hugely important victory there for Maidenhead against the reigning champions in Bloomsbury. What a big performance that was from them, and a big 3 points as well in their quest for the playoffs at the end of the season. That must give them such a big boost now ahead of their final game as well.
Yeah, and for the neutrals like ourselves, a brilliant result. I mean, when we spoke to Loughborough last week, we'd kind of said that they were favourites, and I really didn't think that they would do it. I thought it'd be too much of a mountain in their season. They'd have overachieved already. That it was probably just a little too much for them to get in there. But no disrespect to Bolton, but Maidenhead have kind of got over the big hurdle of getting over Bloomsbury. I think with the style that they play, I think I kind of saw Bloomsbury kind of just brushing them aside in that game. I asked Rich Oxley who he thought from his team could be in the team of the week, and he named his whole starting 5. So that probably says a lot about the performance. And like I said, it was the result that me and you wanted as neutrals, because it sets up a massive game next week. It's by far the main event. Loughborough will be watching that game. I'm sure they will. And kind of it sets us up for an interesting final day. And Yeah, I really think that they deserve it. I think they've played some really good stuff this year. They've competed. They've beaten. They've drawn with Manchester. They've beaten Bloomsbury in the cup and in the league now, and they've really done well. And it's really nice to see another club pushing on. Obviously, newly promoted into the division. Kind of, although some really familiar faces, some really fresh ideas. And it's good. I think we'll see a lot more of that next season. I think like Genesis will come up and be strong, and I think East Riding will come in and they'll have their own way, and they'll look to grind out results. And I think it makes it really exciting. But no, Maidenhead been brilliant this year. Great result for them, and can't wait for next week.
Yeah, and just to touch on Bloomsbury as well before we move on to the next game, do you think they'll be concerned at all, having lost that game, having lost to Maidenhead twice now, or is it just a case of being ready for the playoffs and ultimately looking to retain their title?
Very similar to Bolton, really. Only they kind of know what mindset they went in with, and kind of what if that mindset was right, or what they wanted out of the fixture. Now they could have lost the fixture and got what they wanted out of it in terms of preparation. I don't think losing any game sets you up in good stead. But again, we're not in the coaching staff. But a disappointing result, and on paper, it kind of gives Bolton, although they lost again, although they dropped points again this weekend, it almost gives them kind of looking at that and going, well, if Maidenhead can beat them, we're more than capable.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the Bolton game there. Let's see the highlights from their game then from the Greenbank Sports Academy. It's Bolton against Wessex up next. And joining us for this second game then in the highlight show, we have the Wessex goalkeeper, Ben O'Hanlon. Ben, thanks a lot for joining us. The first thing I just wanted to ask you about was a difference in management for your team this weekend. Of course, with Jeff Bonner unavailable, Louis Melville took charge of the team as a guest coach, so to speak. How was he as a coach and somebody as a man in charge of your team at the weekend?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was good to have him about, actually. We've had him do a little bit with us over the last couple of seasons, so we all know him. I think the boys kind of know him through futsal in general. And yeah, it was great. I'm hoping he kind of got the bug for it and maybe he wants to stick around a bit longer. But we'll see. But he definitely fitted in really well. I think the lads got on with him. They respect him massively, and he's a great coach. And I think he did really help us throughout the game just with his insights on certain things and in certain situations too. So as I said, great, yeah. And hopefully he's got the bug for it.
And just as the highlights play from the game now, just in terms of the season for your team overall on a team level and on an individual personal development level, how have you felt the season has gone in those regards?
I guess from a team perspective, probably a season of two halves. I think at Christmas we picked up that result against York, which I think was much needed. I think if we didn't do that, we'd be really struggling. But ever since that result, we've kind of kicked on, and the second half of the season has been a massive turnaround. Really, I think we all kind of knew we had that in us. The results at the start of the season were quite close, but I think we just couldn't quite get 3 points. So the fact that we managed to kind of kick on in the latter half of the year, pick up good results against some really good teams, is really promising, especially going into next season as well. Obviously, we just missed out on getting playoffs, which is disappointing. But yeah, I mean, I think it's nice to be kind of in and out that mix. And personally, I think it's been good to kind of try to just be as consistent as I can and help the team out where I can. But it's definitely been more. We've been much more solid defensively this season, so maybe been relied on a little bit less, which is good.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you.
And then into the game itself, Ben. So obviously we've just spoke off air, but Bolton had a lot of the chances. So a really busy afternoon for yourself. Do you think them kind of mixing up how they played in terms of, obviously they had a big squad, they're kind of getting players, probably enough kind of players with 5 appearances under their belt. Did that kind of make it a bit of a kind of not an uneven game, but a bit disjointed?
Yeah, I mean, I think from their perspective, obviously they had quite a big squad, and as you said, they were giving out minutes, and maybe that's potentially trying to get players to 5 appearances. Maybe didn't allow them to get into the game as much as they maybe wanted, but at the same time, there was 3-4s, so there was different styles, different players, which obviously from our perspective can be hard as well, because if you're playing against the same 2-4s, it's maybe easier to kind of read what they might do. And they're a really good team. They've got 12 or 13, including the goalkeeper, excellent players. So they are going to create chances, and I think maybe they didn't get into the game as much as they wanted to, just with the constant rotations. But I thought they were all really effective. I thought they're a really good team, and they deserve where they are in the league. So I think it's a really positive result from us.
Yeah, and obviously you've got the result against Bolton now, and obviously I look at teams like your Boltons and your Loughboroughs. So you've kind of dragged yourself away from that bottom part of the league. You're now kind of starting to kind of not admire, but kind of look at those types of clubs to say that's where we want to get to, and that's our next step. How important is it that you've kind of shown that you are that level?
Massive. I think absolutely spot on. It's kind of what our aim was to try and get results against these clubs. So like your Maidenhead, your Loughboroughs, who are obviously in and about that 4th spot. And then Bolton too, if we can compete with them, if we can try and compete and get closer to Bloomsbury, Manchester, good clubs, got really good players, got lots of internationals that play for them. But that's the goal, and I think we've kind of shown this half of the season, or the latter half of the season, that we can compete when we're on our day. And I think next season it's just about trying to build on that and try and solidify our position, closer to the playoffs at least.
And then obviously you've been away recently on international duty, and obviously a lot of your players now are getting that tier 1 experience. So I always think the players at the top end of the squad kind of set the level, whether that be in training or on a match day. Having that caliber of player like your Terry News, your Jordan Matthews, like your Nathan Davises you've got now, they really drive that squad on. How important and how much of a difference do you reckon that's made this year in comparison to kind of where you were last year?
Yeah, I think massively, and I think just even outside of those boys that you've mentioned there, I think the other players having tier 1 experience from last season has really helped, and even the first half of this year. So, as you said, the boys now have 2 years of tier 1 under the belt. You've got boys there that are vastly experienced in futsal, real leaders in the dressing room as well. So I think it is huge, and hopefully the kind of experienced lads can stick to one experience. Hopefully by next season we'll be a little bit, maybe, I don't know, more streetwise, and which might help us just grind out those games and pick up a couple extra results along the way.
And then just to finish off, it was a late equaliser for Bolton. Does that kind of mar your thoughts on the afternoon, or do you kind of see the performances as one thing and kind of the scoreline as a different at this stage?
It's a tough one because third goal very late on. It's my fault. I should do better with it. So it's not great from a personal perspective. But yeah, I think chatting after the game, I think we're really happy with the performance. We came away with a point against Bolton, which is great. But yeah, personally, it did feel a little bit more like a defeat, and kind of like you've let the boys down for the hard work. But I don't think the lads kind of felt like that. I think we kind of felt it was a good performance. Just really happy to go there and compete and come away with a point, which is great.
The highs and lows of being a goalkeeper, mate.
Yeah, life of a goalie, mate. It's not great.
Perfect, mate. Cheers, your time.
Ben, very grateful for your time this evening, because I know you've got stuff to be doing as well. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining us, and thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, Quentin, good to hear there then from the Wessex goalkeeper Ben O'Hanlon on what was an overall positive result for Wessex in what has really been a really positive season for them overall as well. How do you assess their season from an outlooker's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'd have liked to start better, and I think people were probably looking at them as the team that looked the weakest. Obviously, York have gone on to they kind of fell apart as the season's gone on, but Wessex have really pushed on. It seems as though they're like I said to Ben, their top players, their high performers have kind of driven that squad on. Some really good additions throughout the season. And they've kind of gone against what they came into the division with. So when they were in tier 2, they played really end-to-end stuff, and that relies on you having better players. And they've come into a division where that technically their players haven't got the experience in tier 1 or of the level, so they've had to kind of change that a little bit. And we spoke to Terry earlier on in the season. He kind of said, well, we had to kind of almost admit defeat, and the fact that if we were going to continue to play the way like that and not get our defensive principles in, then we were going to continue to get beaten. And they've not massively changed. They've switched it up a little bit, a few tweaks here and there, but they're in games, they're scoring goals, and I think their better players are being able to kind of win them games, get them points. And like Ben said, even the players in the middle of the bottom end of that squad, they've got a year's worth of tier 1 experience in them. They've got that pedigree now where they're able to play the level. They're used to the physicality. They're used to the intensity of the game. So all that experience, it definitely pays off. And this season's kind of come to fruition for them, and they've done brilliantly towards the back end. So no, well done.
Yeah, and from Bolton's perspective, then how do you assess the situation that they find themselves in ahead of their playoffs campaign at the end of the season?
It's hard to say because you don't know kind of what mentality they've gone into the game with. Looking at how they've played it with three sets of 4 on an outfield, it looks as though they're kind of looking to get themselves set for the playoffs, or are they just looking at new 4s, getting some young lads in there? Only really Cookie and the lads will know that their intentions for the game. I don't think they'll be happy with the result. Although you score late, you're buzzing with the equaliser, and especially when it comes from your goalkeeper like that. But the result will disappoint them. But I'm sure they'll be looking more at the performance to kind of say, what did we get out of it in preparation for those playoff games, and obviously they kind of know who they're going to be up against, and they have done for a few weeks now. So whether they've kind of got that in the back of their mind, but it does make it a really tough game for them next week, because ultimately they're playing a side, probably the only side in the league that needs to win. But I think they've got to go and get a result as well, just for their own kind of momentum going into the playoffs. They don't want to go in having played York and beat them, but then they drew with Wessex and then losing to Maidenhead. That's not great preparation going into the playoffs for them.
Yeah, well, great stuff. Some really interesting points from a really interesting game, and another interesting game coming up next. It's Harbury who host Manchester. Joining us for this game now, then we have Manchester's Danny Stapleton. Danny, good to have you here. Just firstly, I wanted to ask about the mindset going into the game, really, because obviously you'd already wrapped up the league phase title ahead of this game. So, using these final games of the season, how have you seen it as a group of players? Are they very much playoff preparation games, or just one game as it comes, each game at a time?
Yeah, of course. I think it comes from Sam, Ilya, and Jans. Comes from the top, and it's we aim to go out and win every game. Just because the league's sort of wrapped up for us doesn't mean that we still can't go out and sort of put our best foot forward and try and play the way that we want to play and try and win games.
Yeah, moving on to the game itself, then it's a rarity, of course, for any Tier 1 game to be 0-0 at half time. That was the case in this particular encounter. What do you put that down to, the tightness and closeness of that game in the first half?
Yeah, it was a really tight game. I think Harbury aren't a team to be underestimated. They've got great individuals and they're a really good team. We obviously came with a game plan that was to do what we do without spoiling anything. And they came with a game plan that sort of worked and sort of kept us in front of them a lot of the time. They're really hard to break down. And as soon as you beat that first line, you're sort of turning into another player. Their intensity was really good and we had to sort of lift ours to match it. And it was a really good game.
Excellent, thank you.
And then Danny, obviously we saw we spoke to Sam last week, and he'd kind of mentioned that despite Harbury's league position, you were expecting a tougher game than that.
Yeah.
Is that something that you factored into your preparation, or did you do anything different? I know you guys prepare and you play your way, like you say, but was there anything about them that you kind of set up for, or that you played for in training?
To a certain extent, but you probably get more off Sam than you will off me, off that sort of stuff. But it like you said, it's very much sort of we like to play our way. And I think that Sam believes that we've got the individuals and the sort of ethos and the way about us to play the way that Sam wants us to play. We are a really good team. Like we said, they've got great individuals, but I don't think that changes how we set up necessarily and how we aim to play.
And then the two goals, I think Pete will be happy that he's managed to kind of keep the league winning team to just scoring from two kind of set plays. Last week, I think you were 5-0 up versus Wessex, and I think 4 of them were from corners. How much emphasis have you put on that in comparison to last season? Because I know that Bloomsbury last year were kind of known for their kick-ins and how well drilled they were, and I think Manchester have come on leaps and bounds this year. Not saying that you were poor last year, but this year you can almost win games, and if you're winning a game 2-1 and you've not scored from open play, that's got to be good for you guys.
Yeah, 100%. I think you look at teams like Bloomsbury and Bolton really nail their set pieces as well. It's a massive part of the game. You look at the stupidly high levels, the pros, the international sort of space in the game, and a seriously high number of goals are scored from set pieces, set plays. So it's important that we nail it. Yeah, saying that, Sam's put a lot of emphasis on it in training. I think we've got players that we can utilize from those positions, whether it's a shooting opportunity or getting it out for a dribble and a 1v1. We've got the players. We just maybe didn't utilize them at times last year. So yeah, it's nice to see that the boys are all sort of taking that on their shoulders and learning the set pieces and actually using them in games. So I think it's one thing knowing them, but it's using the whole run of set pieces that we have through a game, which is it's proving not easy, but it's working.
You didn't know it at the time, but you got the winner yourself. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was a tough game, so it was really good to get the winner. Obviously 1-0 up's always ropey, 2-1's always ropey as well, but it was I think Edgy just took a really quick set piece, found the diag on there, made it hard for me. Took a bit of a touch. If he obviously wanted to test the touch, but no, I think for me, I saw the keeper rush out and there was a bit of a gap at the near post, and I tried to pop it through, and luckily it went in. They don't all, I missed my fair share, but it's a percentage game, so the more shots I take, the more goals I'll hopefully score.
So obviously a good result, seeing the victory through. Onto next week and your final game of the season. You're playing Derby at Repton again. You're not going to be looking for a repeat of the last game. Obviously, you'd like to finish the same way, but I'm sure you're going to hopefully, by your own accounts, play a lot better in the fixture and make it a bit of a different affair.
Yeah, preferably not a repeat of last time. Again, Derby are a really good team, really hard to play against as well. They've obviously got their way of playing that sort of counteracts our way of playing, and they scored goals, which is all you need to do. So it's yeah, it would definitely be a challenge. We've hopefully got some ways that we can combat that, but we'll see on Sunday. Yeah, it won't be easy.
Danny, thanks for your time this evening. Great to hear
Yeah.
from you, and good luck moving
Thanks,
forward
chaps.
to the playoffs as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, Quentin, interesting to hear there then from Danny Stapleton and his point of view on the latest Manchester win. It was a closely fought first half, though, and there's certainly positives that Harbury can take from a performance like that against the already crowned league phase champions.
Yeah, I mean, I probably wasn't expecting it to be that close. I thought Manchester would really kind of set their stall out for the playoffs and try and get a really tight lead. They kind of expected Harbury to play the way they did. But I think what I liked from Harbury was that they weren't just there to kind of spoil the game to get kind of a result or even just to make it a decent, not a bad loss. They've actually gone and set out with a system. They've set out to kind of disturb Manchester, but also made it a really good game. And then when they go fly at the end, we know they're well drilled in it, and they get a goal with minute and a half to go. And no matter who you're playing against, you've always got that opportunity of one more chance in the final minute. And obviously, it didn't come through for them, but Pete will be really happy with the result. And kind of into next week, they've got another game. But this final phase of the season has been kind of really positive with results and performances for them. So yeah, I'm sure he's a very happy man at the minute.
Yeah, of course, Hartbury, a team who are perhaps a little bit more pragmatic in their style compared to the other teams above them in the league that Manchester will be up against in the playoffs at the end of the season. But do you think any of the other teams who end up in the playoffs might take inspiration, so to speak, from how Hartbury have set up and performed against Manchester to restrict them in terms of the goals that they've scored and the chances that they've been able to create?
Yeah, I'm sure whoever's playing Manchester or whoever's playing who will probably be looking over the next the previous 2 or 3 games that each club have played, and kind of working out what's worked well for those teams, what hasn't worked well. And obviously Hartbury is going to be a good example for whoever plays against Manchester to look at. I think with it being a knockout game, ultimately you've only got to prepare for that one fixture and know that it's not about getting 3 points or putting in a good performance to kind of work on a progress. It's all about getting a result on the day. So it's not, whatever that game plan is, it's not about next season, it's not about next week, it's all about getting that result on the day. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of game plans the teams put out against Manchester and Bloomsbury.
Yeah, well, let's move on to our final game then, which is Loughborough Students up against an already relegated York Vikings team.
Come on, boys! Go on. One more. That's all. Oh! Go on. Oh my. Yeah, Bolton. Yeah, go. Get it. Oh. No! Great play. Hey. Safe.
Yeah, kicking it.
Yeah. Nice, go on.
Yes!
That's beautiful. There you go.
See how Yeah. Oh. And again.
Oh.
Did they score?
Go on.
Jimmy te acaban de decir el portero.
Oh. Go on, finish.
Keep. Oh, Jimmy.
Oh, it's a 10.
Yes, Luke. Yes, Luke.
Go on. Oh.
You are.
5-1. Yeah. Go on.
Oh, Jimmy. Out.
Joy.
This end of the season's not looking good for us.
Yeah. So rough. You set piece, bud. Oh, no. Oh! Oh, my God. Yeah. Did he just... Far post. Finish. Oh.
Set. One more set.
Oh. Oh, that is nice. 5-1 predictions on.
I thought this was going to be a silly goal.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, my word. Always goodness.
I told you he saw it today. Oh, really well done.
Go on.
Not back post, it came from our corner.
You can count it.
Oh, hat trick.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had a triathlon last week, so my legs are just recovering. Oh, Bolton the keeper, fair play.
27 impressions.
Hey, look at you go. Oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah. I told you it was either a silly goal or a set piece.
I'm surprised did he go in person, did he? Oh my.
Did what? Is that Jake? Yeah.
Jake's out now, what's that? Beautiful tackle. Tackle in. Beautiful. Oh. We like to see that.
Finally, man.
Yeah. If not, if I show it once the opposition team, it doesn't work for whatever reason. Ah, good tackle. Well won. Get that. Ah. Go on. Minute.
Oh, Jimmy. We're winning, Jimmy.
Go on. Play across.
Jake.
Great. Yeah, it's still like that. Beautiful. Yeah. Oh my.
Jamie.
Just 4. Oh, no, it's Jimmy.
Just that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on this.
Oh,
Let's try this one.
beautiful.
And so joining us for this final game, we have Loughborough's Jamie Hunter. Jamie, thanks a lot for joining us. This was obviously your final league game of the season in terms of the regular Tier 1 league fixtures. Of course, you don't know whether you're going to be in the playoffs or not come the end of the season after the next round of fixtures. So how has that dynamic worked for you? Obviously, I guess it's just been a case of having to win your games and continue on getting the 3 points and see where that leaves you at the end of the season.
Yeah, well, we kind of only discovered a few weeks ago that mathematically it was possible, but obviously results had to go our way. Obviously, we had results in the middle of the season, which we have identified have cost us in terms of obviously getting the points we needed. But especially going into the Maidenhead game, obviously we knew how to win. Every game from that one has been a must win. And obviously it's a bit of a weird. I've never been in this position before for Loughborough specifically, where I've been unknown whether we're going to get in the playoffs. We've obviously been a consistent playoff team, so. Yeah, it's been a weird dynamic to try and navigate. And obviously, I said I've not been in this position before myself. But yeah, it's just play your game. Really, there's almost a bit of less pressure on you because all you've got to do is win, and if you already know the consequences if you lose. But yeah, obviously, Maidenhead have won their game on the weekend. Have got a game to come, so it's patiently waiting, I suppose. Yeah.
In terms of the game itself, then against York at the weekend, was there any sort of different preparation leading up to that, or was it just the same sort of preparation as you always do, and hope for the same outcome with the 3 points?
Yeah, obviously with Loughborough, we don't really we have our analysis on different teams, but our preparation for ourselves is always the same. Well, it was the same intense young side we always are and always have been. We have the same identities and philosophies we always carry out every season. So our preparation doesn't really change for any game from our own side, but obviously looking at how we can maybe beat teams in different ways. We look at that like every team does, but preparation for us was just get in there and win the game and put a performance in.
Brilliant, thank you.
And Jamie, into the first half, so obviously it seemed as though you kind of got the hold of the game nice and early. Was that important? Because obviously now with you playing York and them being obviously already relegated, it was kind of a free hit for them. They're probably all playing that way. Was it good that you could get a grasp of the game nice and early?
Yeah, definitely. Like I would say, the league's competitive. Every team's got them players, got certain aspects that can hurt teams. And obviously, you obviously know how sport goes. If you don't get a foothold early and put a bit of pressure on yourselves, if anything, the game can always go a different way. They've got some good players, good individuals that can hurt you in certain parts of the game. So for us, we knew we had to get definitely the first few goals if they were going to come in and settle the nerves, really. Obviously, I'm not going to deny there were, of course, nerves across, especially the Maidenhead game last week and York this week in terms of we need to win. But yeah, we knew we had as soon as we get the foothold in, we can kind of get a bit more control in the game and kind of put ourselves into it properly. Yeah.
Perfect. And then kind of into the second half, you'd kind of established a decent lead where the game was probably out of York's reach. With you not being in the playoffs, is that not, well, with it not being in your hands, does that not make it a bit of a weird dynamic like with the last 10, 15 minutes of the game? Are we using that 10, 15 minutes to prepare for playoffs, or is that kind of thing going through your mind at that time?
100%. It's a weird, like I said, it's a bit of a weird dynamic because you don't want to be arrogant in the way you kind of handle it. So I think it was just business as usual. Obviously, when you're a few goals up on any team and you don't know what that means, it's a bit of a weird feeling because that could have been your last game. So for us, it was a bit of a: are we happy? Are we still a bit upset and angry? We're not we don't know how to feel in that moment. So we kind of just said to ourselves, especially at half time, just to enjoy it, enjoy the minutes you might get. Obviously, it could be some people's last games of the season or in general. So it was. Yeah, there's a weird dynamic, something again I've never experienced. So it's hard to say how to feel in that scenario. But yeah, it was enjoyable to get the minutes in. But yeah, like I said, unsure as of now.
And with the game coming to a close, like you say, you're not too sure whether that is your last game of the season. And if it is your last game of the season, how would you review this season? Obviously, with you being a young group and obviously you gaining that experience. We spoke about it last week, kind of being on the start of the next cycle for Loughborough. But how do you evaluate this season?
Yeah, like Loughborough, it's weird. It's toxic in the way that you could have brilliant players coming through, young players, and that side of it's brilliant because we're bringing young people through the game and giving them the platform to learn and develop. But we all know when soon they get to a certain age and they want to progress in life specifically, look, we lose them players, and it's a lot of come and gone before my time, coaches and players, and there will when I leave as well at any point if I do. We always know that it's hard to get that core kind of team together. Look at teams that have established themselves over the years in the league, across the whole league. Really, they've got that core team that have been pushing for years and years and developed themselves. So, for us, it's weird, but we'll never change. Unfortunately, we're still the same team that we always have been. I don't really know. We'll see what the Maidenhead game brings next week, because obviously they've been good this season. As of the league, I think the league's been very competitive. Obviously, from what I've watched the videos and stuff, and I agree with what's said. It's a competitive league, and it's interesting. I've also been in playoffs the last 4 years myself since being here, so something that I'll yet to experience. But hopefully the result goes our way, and if not, then
Lastly from me, mate, what are you going to be doing next Sunday? Are you going to be at Repton? Are you going to be watching from home? Are you going to be booing down at Repton, or are you going to be?
Well, I don't think I don't want to come across too eager, like I'm waiting on the result. But yeah, it's something that I'll be keeping an eye on. I know a few of them obviously live close to Loughborough. I won't be there myself, but I do hope that when I get the message through, whatever time it will be, that it's the right result for us. But like I said, I don't think we've put ourselves in this position, because you can look at results across the season and we've identified a few games we should have picked up the 3 points, and we're now, if we got them extra 2 points in draws or 3 points in losses, we won't be in this position. So we have to look at ourselves before we look at any results going our way in favours and stuff like that, anything like that. But yeah, it'd be nice to be helped out. But of course, it is what it is. We'll see what comes Sunday.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Thanks, Jamie. Great to have you on. And should you end up in the playoffs, then good luck moving forward as well. Thanks you.
Thanks for having my time. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Well, Quentin, it turned into another fairly convincing victory for Loughborough in the end, and a result which, again, York have ended up on the wrong side of. Loughborough now have done their job, but they'll be watching on and hoping the result next weekend goes in their favour. They've done all they can. How do you assess their season overall, Loughborough? Have they been where you think they would have expected themselves to be at the start of the season, or are they a little behind in the way that they are now, relying on a result going their way on the last day of the season to make those playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, historically, Loughborough have kind of been a dead cert in those playoffs, and they definitely have been for recent years. That they definitely would have expected to finish higher. I think I looked at it. I think they'll have been looking at it and hoping that they could definitely finish in the top two. Hasn't to be, like we've just spoke to Jamie there. They're looking back now at a couple of results where they should have picked up points. They should have picked up points where they've lost. They should have picked up wins where they've drew as such. So probably a bit of a disappointing season, and I think they'll have looked at that Maidenhead result and they'd have been a bit shocked, because ultimately I think everyone was looking at that game and thinking, Bloomsbury will beat them and Loughborough will sneak in, whether they deserve it or not. But now it's a bit of a nervous one, and it's very, very weird for Loughborough, because I'm sure they'll be training this week, but they don't know if they're training for nothing. I don't know what they'll be doing in terms of preparation. And like we said, the second half of that game, once the game result was in, once they were 5-6, whatever up, it's very weird, and it kind of you don't know what you're playing for, and a very weird end to the season. But I think they'll be back stronger. They've got some really good players in there. They've got, again, like I've said, another year's experience for some of the players that kind of stepped up for them, and it's been an odd one for them. A lot of change at the club. But no, they'll definitely be better off for the experiences they've had this year.
And for York, of course, we've touched on them a lot in previous episodes, but just to to touch on them again. Just the 4 points from their 15 league games so far this season. In a way, there's comparisons to be made with Kent United, who found themselves in a similar sort of position in Tier 1 previously. They haven't been able to bounce back to Tier 1 from Tier 2. Do you think the target next season for York really will be to bounce back straight away?
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to Kent. I think York have been much more of the level. I think Kent were way off it. York have been competitive in games. They struggled against Derby in Manchester, and I think that game is probably the one that kind of ended their season. But they gave Harbury a good run for their money. They were 0-0 versus Bloomsbury at the start of the season, and I think that although they're probably the worst team in the division goes down, let's not be beat around the bush. But I think they're in a real good position now to kind of hit the ground running in Tier 2. It's definitely a division that's more than winnable for the group they've got, and if they can bring in a couple to kind of strengthen the top end of that squad, or kind of maybe if you've got like 8 or 9 of Tier 1 quality players, you can definitely kind of run away with that division. I don't think they'll be fearing anyone in there, and I really want to see them back. I think they're a great club, got, like we say, great venue, great fan base, kids coming through. They've had a really unfortunate year of injury and availability, and it's come to a bit of a sad end for them. But I'm sure they'll be back, and like I said, it's very similar to Loughborough. Those players will be much better off next season because of what they've gone through this year.
Yeah, well, best of luck to them moving forward in their attempts to bounce back to the top flight of English futsal. That now draws to a conclusion the highlights and the interviews. We'll move on to the Team of the Week section. Quentin, if you want to start us off with a couple of names from what we've discussed beforehand off there in terms of the Team of the Week from this latest round of fixtures.
So Michael Wright from Harbury, obviously we've seen the highlights, and to only concede 2 set pieces to Man City there, Manchester is pretty incredible, and I think that'll do Manchester some good, because ultimately they've not had it all their own way. They're not going to have it their own way against whoever they play in the playoffs. But I think for a goalkeeper to have only conceded from 2 set plays is a brilliant performance, and obviously with it being his first game of the season, you're obviously, well, I don't know what games he's played outside of the first team, but he's not played a lot of futsal at that level. So to come in and put that performance in is brilliant. So well done to him. Yeah,
I'll kick us off then with a couple of the outfield players in terms of Uriel Araujo from Manchester. Thought he was really strong at the weekend for the league phase champion. So Uriel Araujo makes this week's Team of the Week. And Tom Dorr from Loughborough, another name in there. First time for him in our Team of the Weeks, but he scored a hat-trick for Loughborough in their convincing victory at the weekend. So Tom Dorr also makes the Team of the Week. And Quentin, if you want to finish us off.
So one Maidenhead player makes it in, although Rich Oxley would have had his whole team in there, like he tells me. But Phil Lant makes it. I think he's another player, probably like Michael, that's not played as many minutes as he did last year. They've obviously recruited really well. But I think when you play in a side in Tier 1, you've got to be able to be a squad player. And he's definitely come in when I've seen him play this year and kind of impacted the game, played steady, never at fault for a goal, and kind of he's a grafter. So obviously gets his day in the limelight to be in our Team of the Week this week. But sometimes the hard workers deserve that credit. So no, he completes the 5 this week.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. So if we run through the league table then as well now, hopefully we can show you on the graphic as well, as you can look through it as I run through it with you. So Manchester, of course, at the top of the table. They're at the top of the tree with 41 points. Still their unbeaten record in the league games remains intact, 13 wins out of the 15 games that they've played so far this season. Bloomsbury, the reigning champions, in second on 31 points after they had a slight points adjustment made to their tally as well earlier this season. Bolton are in third with 29 points. Loughborough currently occupying that 4th place position, but as you can see, they've played all of their games this season, all 16 league fixtures complete for them, and 25 points is what they'll finish on. So Maidenhead United with the chance to leapfrog them into the all-important top four places come the end of the weekend if they can come out with 3 points against Bolton. So Maidenhead on 23 points, And then moving down into the lower section of the league, Wessex on 16 points. Harbury stay on 14. Derby, who didn't play this weekend, are on 12. And York at the bottom of the league table with just the 4 points. But ultimately, it's good, as we've mentioned, Quentin, that there's still something to be decided in the final round of fixtures in terms of that playoff spot.
Yeah, and obviously next week we go into another week at Repton live on TNT. It's nice to kind of have the cameras there. The lads get their day in the spotlight. Obviously, it feels different when the cameras are there, the boards are out, and there's a lot more people in the stands. Especially for that main game. I think it's the live game, which will be Manchester Derby, which obviously was a thriller in the last one. Obviously, Derby led for a long period of that game and conceded twice within the last 40, 50 seconds. So hopefully we get another game like that. But I think, like we say, the main event next week is Bolton versus Maidenhead. And I think a lot of people will be cheering Maidenhead on, if I'm honest. I think a lot of people want to see a fresh team in the top 4. Kind of gives hope to the bottom half of the division or teams coming up that it is achievable and you can go and break in. But yeah, it's been a brilliant season. We've only got a couple of more shows left. But yeah, no, brilliant season, mate. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, great stuff. Quentin, thanks a lot for joining me this evening. Thanks to all our guests for giving us their time with the interviews. It's been another really interesting round of fixtures in the men's Tier 1 of the National Futsal Series, and still one more to bring to you as well before those all-important playoffs come the end of the regular league phase season. They're not too far away now. Thanks a lot for joining us at home. We'll see you next time. For now, thanks and goodbye.